This young woman is a Taiwanese woman, and she was unable to find a husband in Taiwan. Her name is Chin Wei Yi. She was an office worker, and she looked and looked and looked and tried to find someone to marry her, but she couldn't find anyone. So she decided to marry herself. She had a big ceremony with she invited all of her friends, and they all came, and then after the ceremony, she whisked herself off to Australia for her honeymoon. And she says, you must love yourself before you can love others. I think that's so great, to be able to love ourselves, to move past whatever it is that stands in our way of fully expressing and experiencing love. I really think beyond any other thing that we're here on this planet to do is to find love. And that begins by loving ourselves, because we can't really love anyone else until we can truly love ourselves. I found this story. I think it's a very profound story. It's actually a traditional Swedish story. It's titled The Marriage of the Princess and the Dragon. And all of the characters in this story represent aspects of ourselves. They represent parts of us that we are bringing to the light, so that in our fullness we can experience and express the truth of who we are. And this story begins with the king and the queen, Ira's parents, saying to her, because of the mistakes that we have made, you must marry the dreadful dragon. She's like, hearing that, she's like, what? Marry the dragon? I don't want to marry the dragon. And so she goes into town, and she had seen a wise woman in the marketplace. And so she goes and sits down with a wise woman, and she tells her, because of the mistakes my parents made, they told me that I have to marry a dragon. And the wise woman says, oh, my dear one, yes, you must marry the dragon. And when you marry the dragon, you must wear 10 wedding gowns. And she says, 10 wedding gowns? Well, that's crazy. She says, yes, you must wear them one on top of the other. And before you spend the night with the dragon, you have to take off all 10 of these wedding gowns. And the dragon, in the same way, must remove his scales, one at a time. Then, and only then, can you consummate your marriage. So she goes to the dragon and tells the dragon, and he says, well, okay, I'll do that. Ever felt a little hesitant to dig a little deeper in yourself? Remove your scales? So, they have a beautiful ceremony, and they're married. And after the celebration, the dragon scoops up his bride and takes her up to his bedchamber. And he lays her down on the bed. And she says, wait, before you touch me, I have to take off one of my wedding gowns. In fact, I have to take off all of my wedding gowns before you can touch me. And he's like, whoa. And on top of that, you, the dragon, have to take off your scales. And he says, okay, I think I can do that. So she takes her wedding gown off and sets it aside, the top one. And the dragon then grabs a hold of some of his scales and painfully pulls off the scales. And then she reaches for the next wedding gown and takes the next wedding gown off, and the next, and the next. And by the fifth one, the dragon is in ultimate pain and weeping with pain as he removes the scales. And then she continues to take off her wedding gowns until it gets down to the last one. And the dragon looks at the few scales he has left and the tears that are on the ground from his pain, and he reaches and he takes off the last scales. And his skin becomes soft and subtle. And the dragon turns into a handsome, sensitive prince. So this is, and then the princess says, "Come, now we can love each other." So I think this story is fascinating. And so let's take it piece by piece and see where are we in the story? Where are you in the story? Where am I in this story? Our parents, right? Remember, they did something that she gets to pay a price for, right? Well, her parents represent collective consciousness. They represent what we are born into as we come into this lifetime. As we are born from our parents and come into these physical bodies, into this world that so many people have created, and into the collective consciousness, into this world of illusion and pain, and into the illusion that you're not good enough. Ever heard that? Or the illusion that you can't open your heart in love because somebody will take advantage of you. You can't be who you truly are. You can't be vulnerable because when you're vulnerable, you're powerless. And so we are born into these collective, unconscious ideas that aren't true. And so what the princess and the dragon get to do is to help us to realize these unconscious truths and work through them. And that's what she gets to do and we get to do. The wise woman in the story represents the spiritual aspect of ourselves. The part of us that knows the truth, that knows who we are. It's the Christ essence. It's the Buddha essence. It's that place, and I know you've been there, when you recognize your truth within yourself. And you can stand up to that truth and stand into that truth and come from your heart space. It's really a blending of spiritual, powerful truths and coming from the heart. And she represents that powerful being that is the essence of who we are. And it's really, that's what this work is all about, is letting go of the scales, letting go of the wedding dresses so that we can be connected to the truth of who we are. That's the wise woman. The princess represents that part of us that is concerned with how we look, how the world perceives us. Do they think I'm weak? Do they think I'm powerless? Do they think I make a lot of mistakes? Do they think I'm pretty? Do they think I'm worthy? Do they think I'm powerful? Ever have thoughts like that? A couple of you. So the wedding dresses that she takes off represent the letting go of how she is perceived. Because we can really only be ourselves if we stop thinking we have to be like something to be that for other people. So that we can, in a sense, we're letting go of the masks. So we can be in our integrity. So we can be authentic. Because that's where our power is. Our power isn't in the perceptions and the illusions that we think that we have to project to the world. We want to stand in that power. Don't you want to stand in that power and be the powerful truth of who you are? Nobody. All right, well, because it's, and to do so, it means being vulnerable. You know, we studied Brene Brown's book, Wilderness, last year. And a lot of that book was about stepping into the wilderness, being vulnerable. And to shed our dresses and our scales is to be vulnerable, to be real. That's where our power lies. So let's talk about the dragon. The dragon has all these scales to protect himself from the world. And he puts up all of this armor, thinking that that's going to protect him. But what it does is it blocks him from being able to love. So what are you protecting yourself from? What is it that you don't want to show the world? What is it you don't want to show your family or friends? Maybe that it's vulnerable, that you're vulnerable. Marianne Williams has said it's our light that we're afraid of, not our darkness. Are you afraid to show your light? Are you afraid to speak your truth? Are you afraid of the truth of who you are as powerful beings? And I know you're not, because that's why you're here. That's why we study these principles together, so that we can get in there and reveal that which wants to be revealed, so that we can be powerful expressions of light and love and truth and power and wisdom and the Christ and the Buddha on this planet. And that's our essence. It's really, in a sense, that, rather than thinking of pulling these scales off or taking these wedding dresses off, the truth of it is our spirit is pushing them off. Our spirit wants to release them. Your spirit wants to release them so you can be the beautiful, powerful, handsome, incredible person that you are. Yes? Yes. I want that, don't you? Yes. Alan Cohen said, everything will line up perfectly when knowing and living the truth become more important than looking good. Right? I love, who was it? Saturday Night Live, Steve Martin, and, you are looking good today, aren't they, huh? With their plaid pants, It's all about looking good, makes you feel good, but that's just an illusion. We want to be the truth of who we are. Carl Jung says, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you really are. Isn't that what life is all about? Isn't that why we practice these spiritual principles and why we spend time in meditation and prayer? Because in those places that truth is revealed to us. The Gospel of Thomas. Anybody know what the Gospel of Thomas is? It was not a canonized part of the Bible. It's a combination or a conglomeration of about 90 sayings that Jesus said. Actual things that he said. And I think in this Gospel of Thomas that there is more truth than I think in the entire New Testament. It's really, really powerful. And this is one of my favorite quotes. And that is, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Wow. When I read that the first time, it just blew my mind. Because I know it's true. It's that presence of God within us, that knowingness within us, that essence of life and love that wants to express as us, that truth that wants to come forth, and that will save us. And on some level, if we're putting up pretenses and we're not being that which we are, then it will destroy us. And it's not like destruction, like death or something like that. But it just means that we will not be powerful. We are powerful when we stand in the truth of who we are. When we stand in that which desires to experience and express itself through you, that's when you're powerful. How can we not want that? Isn't that what you want? Yes. Isn't that what we all want? Oh, yeah. I really believe that that's what the whole planet wants. But a lot of people are just looking in the wrong place for that power. They're looking out here, or they're thinking it's about controlling someone or some people. When the truth that we're looking for is so close that we can't see it often. It's right here. We are called as spiritual beings to bring forth that is within us. That truth, that power, that love. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote, "No man can, for any considerable time, wear one face to himself and another to the multitude, without finally getting bewildered as to which one is true." Yeah? We can fall into this role of being something so much that we believe that that role is true. And what confusion to try and be something to yourself and something as your public persona. We're really called to be vulnerable, to be powerful, to be honest, and to be present. Mother Teresa said it this way: honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway. Because we're brought up to think that our vulnerability makes us powerless. Yeah, I've felt that before. And actually, it's just the opposite. When we are vulnerable, then we become open to experiencing the truth of who we are. Because whenever we put up any shields, we perceive that we're keeping away that which might harm us, but we're also keeping away that which brings us light and love and healing. It's like stepping on a water hose, yeah? Stopping the flow of the water and stopping the flow of love and truth that wants to come to us. All right, so I'm going to be vulnerable. It's kind of painful sometimes to be vulnerable, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. But you know that my parents died when I was young. My mom died when I was 8. My dad died when I was 12. And I was blessed along the way in that I got step-parents that loved me. When my dad died, I went to his funeral, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried throughout the entire funeral. And I remember something that really brought me to tears was when the minister mentioned my dad and my name, that I was his son, and that he left me behind. And I just fell apart crying. And my stepbrother, who was sitting next to me, who was 8 years older than me, so I guess he was, I was 12, so he was 20. And he looks at me and he says, "Stop crying, you big baby." Which is something like a 20-year-old person might say. And I remember that it shocked me. And in that moment, and after that moment, when contemplating that experience, I said to myself, I'm not going to show my feelings anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore, because I don't want to be a big baby. And this is what my big older stepbrother told me, so it must be true. So I shut myself off. I disengaged from ever wanting to feel at all. And I just got this happy face. And I went around and I was happy and I joked and made fun of everything, especially other people who had feelings. And boy, did I get good at putting people down. I was like a sharp sword. I could cut somebody to the quick in the blink of an eye. And I was practiced at it. And it wasn't until I found unity in 1990 and I started working with my feelings and working with forgiveness that I started to realize that, this isn't really working for me. Putting on this mask of being friendly and that everything is okay. People say, Blaine, how are you doing? I'm great. Yeah? Don't you love that? I am great. Yes. I don't feel anything. Except great. And then it was through these teachings that I started to realize that I can open myself up and I can be vulnerable and I can learn to love myself. And I remember sitting in a Unity church, Unity Walnut Creek, just crying. Just crying. Tears would run constantly out my face as I heard these truths about loving myself, about forgiving my stepbrother, forgiving myself. And then one day I realized crying is a strength, not a weakness. The minister then, I talked to her about it, and she said, Blaine, these tears that you're shedding, they're tears of healing. You're letting go of all that stuff that's not true. And that's beautiful. It's so powerful to cry, to have that release. And we need to feel our feelings because it is through expressing our feelings that we come to realize the truth of who we are. We can push these feelings down and push them into the earth in a sense, but they're going to come up somewhere. To heal, we need to feel our feelings, to be with them, to love ourselves in the midst of them. I can remember washing them away and hoping that nobody's looking. Ever done that? I think I've seen a couple people do that today. Wouldn't it be great if we could just take pride in that? So we don't have to wash them away. We can feel them, that we can be with them, that we can celebrate. Because this is the work that we're doing is all about transformation. Yes?
Yes.
It's okay to feel your pain. I think perhaps to the extent that we can feel pain, we can also feel pleasure. It seems to me that people that I know that don't allow themselves to feel pleasure haven't fully experienced their pain. Now my tears are mostly in celebration. The celebration that I feel and the love that I feel for myself, for my life, for my experiences. When we protect ourselves so that we won't feel pain, that protection becomes like armor that imprisons the softness of our heart. In the same way that the princess and the dragon had to claim and embrace their authentic selves, so must we. So I empower you this week to feel what you're feeling. Be present to yourself. Listen. Feel your pain. Be with it. Feel the joy. Allow yourself to live fully and abundantly and powerfully. This is the path to purification and our marriage to the universe. The universe is calling us to be present, to be authentic, to be powerful. So let's support each other and love each other in embracing this truth. Will you go there with me?
Yes.
Yeah? I invite you to hold hands. The power of God within brings my true self into expression. So, as you hold hands, let's join together in meditation. Taking a deep breath. Realizing that we are all one in spirit. We are all one in love. We are here on this planet to have a holy experience. To live in a sacred and loving way. And as you're holding hands with your neighbor, imagine that we're holding hands across this planet. That we're holding hands with every child, every woman, every man. And imagine that in this field that we're creating, that we're sending out a blessing to the world. Imagining a world without bombs, without guns. A world filled with peace. A world where it's okay to be who we are. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be truthful. It's okay to be powerful. And to use the power, that God-given essence that each of us has, to transform our lives, to transform the way that we are together, to behold the love in each other. To see ourselves as one community, one family, all wanting the same thing. To raise our children. To be creative. To work together to find cures to diseases, to find ways to live powerfully, ways to love our planet. Ways that we can live in a holy, holy way. like to invite the choir to come along to the platform.